So let me tell you how just morally bankrupt Governor WALZ is, Tim Walz. Yes. He supports transgender surgery on minors. So I'm gonna say, if I have to say this, I've said it 100 times. If I have to say it 100 more, I will. There is nobody, I don't care if you're a doctor, I don't care if you're a scientist, I don't care if you're a nurse, you should not support such a thing because of the scientific evidence of the frontal lobe. Now, Governor Walz, or Tim Walz, is not a doctor as far as I know. If he is, a piss poor example of one, but we all know the evidence of the frontal lobe. It's been known a long time. Impulse control is housed in the frontal lobe. The reason teenagers make irrational decisions and say stupid things sometimes or do stupid things, there's science behind it. It's because their frontal lobe isn't formed, and the frontal lobe is where impulse control is housed. So when that's not formed, and you change some kid's gender by cutting their parts off or putting them on hormones, and then they suddenly realize, no, I didn't want to do that. It's because they likely were making a rash decision because impulse control is not formed yet. Making rational decisions is not formed yet. So for any healthcare system to support that means that they are a disgraceful one, or one that maybe didn't go to school. I don't know. But Tim Walz supports that. But then Kamala Harris supports healthcare as a human right. Yeah, that's such a cool talking point, and that's all that is a cool talking point. But it's just not that simple. See, the problem is that the reason the hospitals are blatantly being obvious, the administrators, about how it's all about money, they want you to see that. They want you to. They want you to yell. They want the public to yell and scream about how bad healthcare is. Because then the government steps in. And the government's already in healthcare. So much so that it's the reason it's a train wreck. We still have people to this day that want to support Obamacare, which was the worst thing for healthcare. People not even wanting to be honest about that. Not your nursing unions, not American Nurses Association, none of them. Nope, worst thing. But they wanted it because they're about socialism. Socialism will always, always marry communism because it can't maintain itself. So when they yell and scream about healthcare as a human right, realize that before Obamacare, people could go to the emergency room. The emergency room has never in the history of Americans' healthcare has it turned people away. Obamacare did nothing except centralize your healthcare system, which is why everybody started merging. And what was once free enterprise, where you force them to have to, in order to make it, that if they want to have more patients come to that hospital, then they'll have better staff, more staff, best equipment. But that changed. Obamacare changed all that. So then all the health systems become one big mess of nothingness except garbage. And now they want to take it into that communist state because they've taken it already into the socialized medicine. What they want now is to get everybody on one healthcare system, because it's simple logic here. If you open the borders and let anybody and everybody come in, and then you say, we're going to give you free health care, the healthcare system cannot manage that. Because they don't hire people, and they do it deliberately. They deliberately don't hire. They deliberately say, we're going to try AI, that's going to help us. They know it's not. They know that what socialism is all about is the money going right back to the top. So see, the Bernie Sanders of the world, they love to tell you that it's about spreading the wealth, but believe me, the only place they're spreading it is right back up to his pockets and everybody else's that's in the billionaire club. But the government creates agencies like this. Center for Healthcare Quality and Payment Reform. They create this stuff, even though it's not seen as a government entity. It really is. But they do this because Well, you hear Elizabeth Warren and AOC and other Democrats saying we have to fix the healthcare system. It's a mess. There's fraud going on. And why is the fraud happening? Why is it blatantly being done in your face? Because the government got in bed through using these kinds of organizations so that they can further destroy the healthcare system. For people that think that that's just some made up thing, you need to understand the history of the world then. Because throughout the history of the world, there has always been people. There's still many communist countries today. Because of ruthless people, usually billionaires to begin with, that want nothing but have control over people. So to think it's a conspiracy theory that it could happen in America means you have stupid thinking and you're not logical. And because of our Constitution, it makes things a little bit more difficult, but it's not stopping them. But what it shows is that your most wealthiest will do whatever the government tells them to do. And that's part of the problem, is everybody does what the government tells them to do. So what the government does, because it gets in bed with a bunch of medical insurance companies, and then decides what it's going to pay and what it's not. And because Medicare and Medicaid is funded from the government, then it tells the hospitals, hey, you better do this or you're not going to get paid. You better play ball. And because most of your billionaires, not all of them, but most of them are morally bankrupt, I don't even think they could care about their families, will do anything to get every payment, then they'll go along with, say, like DEI. They'll go along with being nothing but disgusting looking about how they don't care about patients anymore, not that they ever did. And that's what they do. And then that works for the government, because then the government can step in more and more and more and more and more. And say, we have to reform this, we have to do this, we have to do that. The government cannot fix anything. Throughout the history of the United States, that's been proven true. When the government steps in, it's a big mess. It doesn't help anybody, it hurts the smallest people, and it always seems to only serve the wealthy. The worst things that happen to you and I end up benefiting the politicians and the richest people. I mean, you have to have the right people in place to really truly fix things. You have to have people with a moral compass. Most of our government, the billionaires, most of them, they do not have a moral compass. They have incentives for themselves. And so they do not care. If you're a caring person, that may be so hard for you to understand, but it's the truth. And you can sit by and just accept it, but you're accepting your own demise. To not call this bullshit out. There's a reason the Democrat Party loves unions, especially in healthcare. Is right now, it's a great way to get doctors to go running to a union, because the system is so disgusting that that's what many doctors are doing. And they don't realize that is the best way for them to play you. Because they love those unions. They do. They love to stand on you and say, no, we're about healthcare. We're about having more nurses. But there will be a price behind closed doors for you to get that, if you even get it. California got the nursing ratios they want, but look at California. Look at what Kamala Harris did to that state because of how morally bankrupt she is. So it's no wonder that she put as her VP another morally bankrupt lunatic. Because that lunatic supports cutting private parts off children if the parents and the child want it done. And yet no doctor or surgeon in this country should be going along with that. Why any surgeon did it that, and there's been many done, is beyond me. Beyond me, except that there's a lack of any kind of ethical responsibility here. There needs to be people held accountable for their ethical decisions. I understand we all make mistakes, but when you make a mistake on that level, then that's just purely somebody that shouldn't even be treating patients. So that's how the government works. with the private sector to screw us.